The year was 2157. Humanity had finally achieved what many generations had only dreamed of: faster-than-light travel. After centuries of looking up at the stars with wonder, humans were ready to join the cosmic community. Captain Ethan Brooks stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel, Horizon. His heart beat rapidly in his chest as the massive space station of the Galactic Concord came into view. The structure was unlike anything humans had ever built, a spinning wheel of impossible materials that gleamed with colors the human eye could barely process. "Receiving transmission from Concord Control," said Communications Officer Kelly Wright. Her voice wavered slightly. "They're sending docking instructions." Ethan nodded. "Take us in, nice and slow. Let's not make any sudden moves." The crew of 30 humans aboard the Horizon represented the best Earth had to offer. Scientists, diplomats, soldiers, all chosen for this historic first contact with the Galactic Concord, an alliance of species that had maintained peace across the Milky Way for over 3,000 years. As the ship docked, Dr. Lisa Morgan checked her appearance one last time. As the mission's xenobiologist, she would be among the first to meet the alien representatives. "Nervous?" asked Ethan, appearing beside her. Lisa smiled thinly. "Wouldn't you be? We're about to meet beings who have been watching us for centuries, judging if we're worth talking to." "Well, they invited us here," Ethan said. "That has to count for something." The airlock hissed open. The human delegation stepped into a vast chamber filled with light. Creatures of all shapes and sizes stood watching them. Some floated in the air, others moved on multiple legs. A few seemed to shift form as they watched. A tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Jorek of the Zalaxian Commonwealth," it said in perfect English. "On behalf of the Concord Council, I welcome humanity to the stars." The formalities proceeded smoothly. The humans were guided to a large circular room where representatives from 20 different species sat in a ring. Ethan and Lisa took their assigned seats, feeling the weight of every alien gaze. "We have observed your species for some time," said a cloud-like entity that introduced itself as the voice of the Mist Collective. "Your development has been unusual." Ethan glanced at Lisa, who stepped in smoothly. "In what way, if I might ask?" A hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing Earth's history. Images of war flashed by: Roman legions, medieval knights, world wars, modern conflicts. "Most sentient species evolved as prey animals," explained a small furry creature with large eyes. "Intelligence developed as a defense mechanism, but humans, you were the hunters," Zorhek finished. "You chased your prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. You endured pain and hardship that would break most species. You developed weapons before you developed writing." The room grew quiet. Lisa felt her face flush. She hadn't expected humanity's first diplomatic meeting to feel like an interrogation. "With respect," she said, "you're only seeing part of our story." She stood and approached the hologram controls. With permission, she accessed the Earth database. New images appeared: humans building hospitals, creating art, rescuing animals from danger, helping strangers. "Yes, we fought wars," Lisa admitted, "but we also wrote poetry about peace. We developed medicines to cure disease. We protect the weak and celebrate compassion." Ambassador Zorek's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "An interesting duality. But tell me, Dr. Morgan, how can a species capable of such violence also claim to value peace?" It was Ethan who answered. "Because we understand the cost of war better than anyone. We know what we're capable of. That's why we work so hard to be better." The council members exchanged glances, communicating in ways the humans couldn't understand. Finally, a tall plant-like being with flowers blooming across its surface spoke. "Humanity is granted provisional membership in the Concord," it announced. "However, there will be restrictions. Your military vessels must remain within your home system. Your weapons technology cannot be further developed. These measures are for the safety of all." Ethan started to protest, but Dr. Morgan placed a hand on his arm. This was better than nothing. They would prove themselves with time. Later, as the human delegation toured the station, Ambassador Zorek approached Lisa privately. "Your species concerns me," the alien admitted. "I reviewed your entertainment programs. You create simulations of combat for pleasure. Your children play games about war. Even your sports involve physical conflict." Lisa sighed. "We channel our natural instincts in healthy ways. It's how we avoid real violence." Zorek's skin rippled, with blue patterns that Lisa guessed expressed doubt. "There is another matter. Our scans show your physical capabilities are concerning. Your endurance exceeds most conquered species. Your tolerance for pain is abnormally high. And your reproductive rate is completely natural for us," Lisa finished firmly. "Of course," Zorek said. "But you must understand, Dr. Morgan. A species with your physical traits combined with your history of conflict and your rapid technological advancement, some council members see humanity as potentially dangerous." Lisa met the alien's eyes directly. "We come in peace, Ambassador. We've dreamed of joining a galactic community for generations. We want to learn, to trade, to grow together." "I believe you mean that," Zorek said. "I hope the rest of your species shares your vision." As the Horizon prepared to return to Earth with news of their conditional acceptance, Ethan found Lisa staring out at the stars. "They're afraid of us," she said quietly. "Can you blame them?" Ethan replied. "We've only just stopped fighting among ourselves, and now we're bringing our baggage to their doorstep." Lisa turned to face him. "Do you think they're right to restrict us?" Ethan considered the question seriously. "I think they're being cautious, and maybe that's fair. We need to earn their trust." Neither of them could have known that trust would come sooner than expected. Neither could have guessed that the very traits the Council feared in humanity would soon be the galaxy's greatest hope. Because beyond the borders of conquered space, a threat was stirring. A hungry, endless swarm of beings who knew nothing of peace or diplomacy. And when they came, the galaxy would learn why humans were both its most frightening and its most valuable members. For now, though, the Horizon journeyed home, carrying news that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. It was the dawn of a new era, one that would test everything humans believed about themselves and show the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. 5 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Concord. Humans spread across their solar system, building colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. They traded with alien species, learned new technologies, and slowly earned some trust. But they remained restricted. Human ships could not travel freely through conquered space. Human weapons could not advance beyond what the Council approved. Commander Jack Pearson stood in the Earth Defense Force headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. The large screen before him showed a transmission from a distant Concord outpost. The images made his blood run cold. "Play it again," he ordered softly. The recording showed a peaceful Concord colony world. Then dark shapes appeared in the sky. Thousands of them. The shapes landed and moved across the landscape like a flood. Where they passed, nothing remained. Not buildings, not plants, not people. Just bare ground. "When did this happen?" Jack asked. 3 days ago," replied his aide, Lieutenant Maria Foster. "The Concord lost contact with 5 outer systems before they realized what was happening." Jack ran a hand through his short gray hair. "And they're calling these things Ravagers," Maria said. "A collective consciousness of biomechanical entities. They consume all organic matter to replicate." The screen changed to show an emergency meeting of the Concord Council. The aliens argued among themselves. Some wanted to abandon the outer colonies and fortify the core worlds. Others suggested trying to communicate with the Ravagers. None proposed a direct military response. "They've been at peace so long they've forgotten how to fight," Jack muttered. A new message appeared. Jack was summoned to Washington immediately. Earth's ambassador to the Concord, Olivia Whitman, needed military advisors. 24 hours later, Jack stood beside Ambassador Whitman in the Concord Council chamber. The room buzzed with fear. Reports continued to arrive. 3 more worlds had fallen. The Ravagers do not respond to communication attempts. reported a trembling insectoid being. They destroyed our diplomatic vessels without hesitation. Our defensive technology cannot stop them, added another alien, this one resembling a tall, elegant plant. Our shields were designed to withstand energy weapons, not physical swarms that simply overwhelm through numbers. Ambassador Whitman stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm. The Concord has existed in peace for thousands of years. This is your strength, but now it has become your weakness. You have forgotten what humanity has never been allowed to forget. The council fell silent. You fear us because we come from conflict, Whitman continued. You restricted us because our history is filled with war, but now that very experience might save you. The plant-like alien rustled its leaves nervously. What are you suggesting, Ambassador? Let humans lead the defense effort, remove our restrictions, allow us to develop the weapons and strategies needed to fight this enemy. The council erupted in debate. Many representatives openly expressed their doubts about trusting their survival to the youngest, most volatile species in the Concord. Ambassador Jorhek, who had been the first to welcome humans 5 years earlier, raised all four of his arms, for silence. I have studied human history extensively, he said. Their wars were terrible. But from those conflicts came strategies and technologies that might help us now. I support the human proposal. The vote was close, but in the end, desperation won out over caution. The restrictions on human military development were lifted. Earth would coordinate the Concord's defense. 2 weeks later, Colonel Ryan Murphy arrived at the Tellurian homeworld. The Tellurians were a peaceful insectoid species whose worlds lay directly in the Ravager's path. When Ryan's ship landed, he found them preparing elaborate surrender ceremonies. You can't surrender to these things, Ryan explained to the Tellurian leader, a tall insect with colorful wings named Hespik. They don't take prisoners. They consume everything. Hespik's antennae drooped. Then we will die with dignity. Violence is against our nature. Ryan looked around at the beautiful Tellurian city, built in perfect harmony with the natural world. What about defense? Protection? Surely you protect your young. The question seemed to confuse Hespik. Of course, but that is different from warfare. No, Ryan said firmly. It's exactly the same, just on a larger scale. Over the next days, Ryan and his team of human soldiers began training the Tellurians. It was frustrating work. The aliens had natural strength and speed, but no concept of tactics or strategy. They were reluctant to even hold weapons. Ryan changed his approach. Think of yourselves as the immune system of your world, he told them. You're not attacking. You're defending against a disease. This concept resonated with the Tellurians, who understood biological systems well. Slowly, they began to learn. Meanwhile, back on Earth, factories worked around the clock to produce new weapons. Scientists developed systems specifically designed to combat the Ravager swarms. Ships were retrofitted with enhanced armor and deployable barriers. At Concord headquarters, Jack Pearson coordinated with alien military leaders, teaching them concepts they had long ago abandoned: ambushes, defensive perimeters, strategic retreats. Many of the aliens were shocked by human methods. You suggest we sacrifice the outer moon to protect the main world? Asked a horrified Arcturian commander. Sometimes you have to lose a battle to win a war, Jack explained patiently. This isn't about honor or fairness. It's about survival. Well, the Tellurian homeworld. Sensors detected the approaching Ravager fleet. They would arrive in less than 48 hours. The Tellurian forces, now trained by Ryan and his team, took up their positions. I am afraid, Hespik admitted as they watched the defense systems come online. Good, Ryan replied. Fear keeps you alert. But remember what I taught you. Channel it. Use it. Hespik's compound eyes reflected the light of the setting sun. The Concord taught that humans were dangerous because of your capacity for violence. Now we depend on that same capacity. Ryan checked his weapon one last time. There's an old saying on Earth, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Sometimes being good means being willing to fight. As night fell, the first Ravager scouts entered the system. The entire Tellurian defense force watched the skies, weapons ready following the human battle plan. The real test was about to begin, not just for the Tellurians but for humanity itself. For the first time, the galaxy would witness what humans could do when fully unleashed. They would soon understand why humans were considered the most fearsome warriors in the galaxy, and why that might be exactly what the Concord needed to survive. The Ravager ships entered the Tellurian system like a swarm of locusts. There were hundreds of them, each carrying thousands of the biomechanical creatures. They moved without formation or strategy, simply overwhelming their targets through sheer numbers. Colonel Ryan Murphy watched from the command center as the first wave approached. Beside him, Hisipik and the other Tellurian leaders waited nervously. "Remember the plan," Ryan said calmly. "Let them think they have an easy target. The Ravagers bypassed the outer defense satellites without attacking them." Just as Ryan had predicted, they headed straight for the main planet, hungry for its rich biological resources. "Now," Ryan ordered. The defense grid activated, but instead of firing directly at the Ravager ships, the weapons targeted the space around them. Clouds of tiny metallic particles filled the approach vector, each particle programmed to attach to the Ravager's hull material. "They're slowing," observed Hespik. "The particles are affecting their navigation systems." Ryan nodded. Phase 2. On his command, the orbital platforms that had been silent suddenly came to life. But they didn't fire conventional weapons. Instead, they emitted powerful electromagnetic pulses. The Ravager ships, now coated with the conductive particles, short-circuited by the dozens. The aliens in the command center buzzed with excitement. This strategy was unlike anything in the Concord military manuals. It was deception, a concept many of them struggled to understand. "Why not simply confront them directly?" asked one of the Tellurian commanders. "Because they would have overwhelmed us," Ryan explained. "Humans learned long ago that when you're outnumbered, you need to be smarter, not stronger." But the victory was short-lived. The remaining Ravager ships adjusted their approach. They released smaller vessels that were less affected by the electromagnetic pulses. These scout ships shot down the defense platforms one by one. "They're adapting," Ryan said grimly. "Time for ground defense." Lieutenant Samantha Hayes led a squad of human soldiers mixed with Tellurian volunteers. They positioned themselves near the capital city, hidden in underground bunkers. The plan was to let some of the Ravagers land, then hit them from all sides. "Remember your training," Samantha told the nervous Tellurians. "Stay in your groups. Stick to the plan." The first Ravager landing ships touched down 10 miles from the city. The creatures that emerged looked like a nightmare combination of insect and machine. They moved on 6 legs with frightening speed, their bodies covered in metallic plating. At the front of each creature was something like a mouth, constantly opening and closing, ready to consume anything in its path. Samantha watched through binoculars as the swarm grew. Thousands of the creatures gathered, preparing to move toward the city. "Get ready," she said into her radio. "Let them come halfway, then spring the trap." The Ravagers moved across the landscape like a flood of metal and flesh. They devoured everything in their path: plants, animals, even the soil itself. Where they passed, they left only bare rock. When the swarm reached the halfway point, Samantha gave the signal. Hidden panels in the ground opened, revealing trenches filled with a sticky chemical compound developed by Earth scientists. The front line of Ravagers fell in and became stuck. "Fire," Samantha ordered. The hidden defense forces opened fire with weapons designed specifically to penetrate the Ravagers' armor. The creatures screeched with a sound like tearing metal as they fell. But for each one that dropped, 10 more came forward. They began to form bridges with their own bodies, crossing over the trapped front line. "Fall back to position 2, Samantha ordered. Her team retreated to the second line of defense. One of the Tellurians was too slow. A Ravager caught him, its mechanical jaws closing around his leg. Without hesitation, Samantha ran back, firing directly into the creature's sensory cluster. It released the Tellurian and collapsed. Samantha helped the injured alien to safety. His leg was badly damaged, green fluid leaking from the wound. "Leave me," the Tellurian said. "Save yourself." Samantha ignored him, lifting him onto her shoulder despite his larger size. "No one gets left behind," she said through gritted teeth. In the command center, Ryan received reports from all defense sectors. The strategy was working in some areas, failing in others. The Ravagers were taking heavy losses, but still advancing. "We need the air support now," he ordered. Earthships appeared in the sky, piloted by the best human pilots. They flew in tight formation, executing maneuvers that the Concorde pilots had declared impossible. They targeted the largest concentrations of Ravagers with precision strikes, then vanished before the anti-aircraft response could lock onto them. Ambassador Zorek watched these human pilots with 4 wide eyes. "How can they fly so close to the ground?" he asked Ryan. "The risk is enormous." "Humans have always pushed the limits of what's possible," Ryan replied. "We call it courage." "We would call it reckless," Zorek said. "Sometimes the two are the same thing." Back on the front lines, Samantha's team reached the second defensive position. The trenches here were deeper, the fortifications stronger. Medical staff took the injured Tellurian while Samantha rejoined the fight. The battle raged for hours. The Ravagers kept coming, but their advance had slowed. The human strategies, the traps, the hit-and-run attacks, the coordinated air support wars were taking a toll. As night fell, the Ravagers suddenly pulled back. They retreated to their landing ships, taking their dead with them. "They're leaving?" Hispik asked, not daring to hope. Ryan shook his head. "Regrouping. They'll be back, and they'll have learned from today." In a secure lab beneath the city, Dr. Kevin Walsh worked tirelessly studying Ravager remains. He had deliberately exposed himself to dangerous materials to speed up his research. The Tellurian scientist watched in horror as he injected himself with a serum derived from Ravager tissue. "The risk is too great," one of them protested. "We don't have time for cautious testing," Kevin replied as he monitored his own reactions. "We need to understand their biology now, not next week." This willingness to risk personal safety for the greater good shocked the aliens. It was a trait they saw in all the humans, this strange combination of self-preservation and self-sacrifice. As the defenders prepared for the next attack, stories spread among the Concorde forces. Stories of human soldiers fighting even when badly wounded, of pilots making impossible maneuvers, of scientists risking their lives to gain knowledge. The Tellurians began to understand what made humans different. It wasn't just their weapons or their strategies. It was something deeper, a fierce determination that burned in them like fire. And as the next wave of Ravagers appeared on the horizon, that fire would be tested again. 6 months passed since the first battle at the Tellurian homeworld. The war against the Ravagers had spread across the outer systems of the Conquered. Both sides were locked in a stalemate. The combined Concorde forces, now fighting with human tactics, had stopped the Ravagers from advancing further. But they couldn't push them back. The Conquered Council gathered for an emergency meeting. The Great Chamber was no longer the peaceful place it had once been. Many seats remained empty, representing worlds that had fallen to the Ravagers. "We have lost 23 systems," reported the Arcturian delegate, Thorin. "We cannot afford to lose more." The Council's strategic AI presented its analysis. "Our current approach is unsustainable. Projections indicate we will exhaust our resources within 8 standard months." Ambassador Olivia Whitman listened carefully. She had aged visibly in the past 6 months, her once dark hair now streaked with gray. "What alternatives do we have?" The plant-like representative rustled nervously. "Many on the Council believe we should abandon the outer systems. Create a defensive line around our core worlds." "Retreat, you mean?" Olivia said flatly. "Strategic withdrawal," corrected the AI. "It would increase our chances of preserving the most populated worlds by 47%. The debate continued for hours. Most of the Council favored the retreat plan. It was logical, efficient. It sacrificed the few to save the many. As the Council prepared to vote, the doors to the chamber opened. Major Ben Collins walked in, his uniform still dusty from the battlefield. His face bore fresh scars from the Battle of Proxima Centauri. where human forces had held off a Ravager assault for 3 weeks without reinforcements. "The Council recognizes Major Collins," Ambassador Whitman said. Ben looked around the chamber, his eyes hard. "While you sit here talking about retreat, my soldiers are dying to hold the line." Several council members shifted uncomfortably. The Zalaxian delegate spoke up. "We understand your frustration, Major, but the numbers don't lie. We are losing this war. Only because we're fighting defensively," Ben argued. "We need to take the fight to them." He activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. A 3D map of Ravager-controlled space appeared. "Our intelligence has located their central command structure," Ben explained, pointing to a large ship hidden in an asteroid field. "They operate like a hive mind. Cut off the head, and the body dies." He outlined his plan. Operation Hellfire, a coordinated strike at the heart of the Ravager command structure. It would require a small force to infiltrate Ravager territory while the main fleet created a diversion. The Council's strategic AI calculated the odds immediately. Probability of success, 8%. Estimated casualty rate, 92%. A murmur ran through the Council. Such losses were unthinkable. "These numbers are unacceptable," stated the Voldarian scientist representative. Ben's face hardened. "Sometimes you have to be willing to die for even a slim chance of victory." Ambassador Jorek, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "I have studied human history extensively during this conflict. I find it interesting that humans never unified on their own world until facing extinction-level threats." The chamber grew quiet. "Your species thrives on challenge," Jorek continued. "You evolve through adversity. The worse the situation becomes, the more innovative and determined humans grow. This is a psychological trait nearly unique in the galaxy." Thorin nodded slowly. "I have observed this as well. Human soldiers fight harder when the situation appears hopeless. It defies logic." "It's not about logic," Ben said. "It's about faith. Faith in each other. Faith that what we're fighting for matters more than our individual lives." The Council remained unconvinced. The risk was too great. The losses too severe. They were preparing to vote on the retreat strategy when an urgent message arrived. The Ravagers had broken through at Epsilon Eridani, a key system that protected several core worlds. If it fell, the Ravagers would have a direct path to the heart of conquered space. "Operation Hellfire needs to launch now," Ben insisted. Ready or not, the Council voted. It was close, but in the end, desperation won out over caution. Operation Hellfire was approved. As the meeting ended, Ambassador Whitman approached Ben privately. 92% casualty rate. You're asking these soldiers to die." "I'm asking them to give us a chance," Ben replied. "And I'll be leading the mission myself." The other side of conquered space, engineer Nicole Harris worked in a radiation-flooded lab. She had been developing a new weapon by reverse engineering Ravager technology. The work required her to take medication with severe long-term health effects. A Tellurian scientist entered, wearing a protective suit. "The radiation levels are too high," he warned. "You must leave." Nicole didn't look up from her work. 5 more minutes, I'm almost there. The damage to your cellular structure will be permanent." Nicole finally turned to face him. "Better me than everyone." She held up a small device. "Besides, it's worth it. This quantum disruptor should disable their hive mind connection, if we can get it close enough to their command ship." Operation Hellfire began the next day. A series of diversionary attacks led by Commander Andrea Martinez drew Ravager forces away from their central coordination node. Meanwhile, the main strike team, led by Major Collins, prepared for their mission. The team included volunteers from 12 different species, beings who had fought alongside humans and adopted not just their tactics, but their spirit. They gathered in the hangar bay of the Earth vessel, defiant. Ben looked at the faces around him, human and alien alike. "I won't lie to you. This mission is probably a one-way trip. Our job is to get the quantum disruptors to the Ravager command ship and detonate them. This will sever the connection between the Ravager units, making them vulnerable. He paused. Anyone who wants to back out, now's the time. No shame in it. No one moved. A Zalaxian officer stepped forward. 6 months ago, I would have considered this mission insanity. Now I understand what humans have always known. Sometimes victory requires sacrifice. Ben nodded. Let's make it count. As the strike team boarded their ships, news came in from across conquered space. The diversionary attacks had drawn away many Ravager forces, but heavy fighting continued on multiple fronts. The mission was a go. Operation Hellfire had begun. The fate of the Concorde now rested on a desperate plan, born from humanity's long history of warfare. It was time to see if the galaxy's most fearsome warriors could live up to their reputation. The strike team ships moved silently through Ravager-controlled space. There were 12 vessels, each one small and fast. They had been painted with special material that absorbed sensor scans. Major Ben Collins led from the front, piloting the lead ship himself. "Stay in formation," he said over the secure channel. "Remember, we're invisible as long as we don't use active systems." The asteroid field that hid the Ravager command ship loomed ahead. It was a perfect natural fortress, with thousands of rocks ranging from car-sized to larger than mountains. Somewhere in that chaos of spinning stone was their target. Lieutenant Samantha Hayes checked her scanner. "I'm picking up unusual energy readings from the center of the field." "That's our target," Ben confirmed. Everyone switched to minimal power. "From here on, we're flying manual." Flying through an asteroid field without computer assistance was considered impossible by conquered standards, but humans had trained for exactly this scenario. Their natural reflexes, honed by centuries of competitive sports and video games, gave them an edge that surprised even their alien allies. The Zalaxian pilot, Krelvor, watched in amazement as his human co-pilot navigated between two colliding asteroids with only inches to spare. "How did you do that?" "Used to race skimmers back home," the human replied with a grin. "This isn't so different." As they approached the center of the field, they finally saw it, the Ravager command ship. It was enormous, at least 5 miles long, shaped like a giant insect with metallic legs folded against its body. Smaller Ravager vessels moved around it like worker bees around a queen. "Diversion team, you're up," Ben ordered. Commander Andrea Martinez led the diversion force at the edge of the system. Her ship suddenly powered up and began firing at Ravager patrol vessels. The response was immediate. Dozens of enemy ships broke away from the command ship to engage the new threat. "Entering attack vector," Ben announced. "All ships arm quantum disruptors." The strike team accelerated toward the command ship. They were spotted almost immediately. Ravager defensive. Fire filled space around them. "Evasive maneuvers," Ben shouted as his ship rocked from a near miss. 2 of the strike team ships exploded as direct hits tore them apart. The others continued their approach, weaving through the defensive fire. They had to get close enough to attach the quantum disruptors directly to the command ship's hull. Ben's ship took a hit to its engine. Warning lights flashed across his control panel. "I've lost main propulsion," he reported calmly. "Switching to auxiliary." Samantha's voice came over the comm. "Major, my team can complete the mission. Fall back while you can." "Negative, Lieutenant. We all see this through." The remaining strike vessels reached the command ship. Armored boarding teams launched from each ship using jetpacks to cross the vacuum to the Ravager vessel. Ben led his team toward a section that looked like it might be a sensor array. The surface of the command ship was alive with defensive systems. Mechanical tentacles lashed out at the borders. Weapon ports opened, firing at point-blank range. A Tellurian soldier was caught by one of the tentacles. Without hesitation, an Arcturian team member fired, severing the tentacle. The Tellurian gave a grateful nod and continued placing his quantum disruptor. Ben reached his target area and attached his device. "Disruptor 1 in place," he reported. "Setting timer for 10 minutes. Similar reports came in from the other teams. 7 disruptors were successfully planted. Then the Ravagers launched their counterattack. Hundreds of Ravager drones poured out of hatches in the command ship. They swarmed toward the boarding teams. "Fall back to the ships," Ben ordered. "Mission accomplished. Get out while you can. The EU retreat was chaotic. Teams fought their way back, covering each other. Species that had once been peaceful scholars now fought with the ferocity they had learned from their human allies. Ben was helping a wounded Voldarian when a Ravager drone caught him from behind. Its mechanical claws dug into his suit, breaching the seal. Ben felt the cold of space begin to seep in. Samantha appeared beside him, firing repeatedly into the drone until it released its grip. "Come on, sir, we're not leaving you behind." "The disruptors," Ben gasped as they pulled him toward the nearest ship. "How long?" 3 minutes, Samantha replied. "We need to move." Only 5 of the original 12 ships managed to launch from the command ship. They flew at maximum speed, trying to clear the blast radius before the disruptors detonated. Ben's consciousness was fading as the cold and vacuum exposure took its toll. Through blurry eyes, he saw the timer on his wrist display counting down. "Tell Earth," he whispered to Samantha. "Tell them we didn't go quietly." The quantum disruptors detonated simultaneously. There was no conventional explosion. Instead, a wave of energy rippled outward from the command ship. Where it passed, Ravager vessels suddenly lost coordination. They drifted aimlessly or crashed into each other. The strike team ships were caught in the edge of the wave. Systems flickered but held. They had survived. It worked. Samantha said in wonder. The hive mind is broken. Across conquered space, the same scene played out. Ravager forces that had been attacking with perfect coordination suddenly fell into disarray. The Concord fleets, prepared for this moment, pressed their advantage. 3 days later, the surviving members of the strike team returned to Concord headquarters. Of the 60 beings who had launched on Operation Hellfire, only 22 returned. Ben Collins was among them, though he remained in critical condition. The Concord Council chamber had been rearranged. The traditional circular arrangement, symbolizing equality, had been modified. Earth's position, once at the periphery as the newest member, had been moved to a place of honor. Ambassador Zorek, speaking for the Council, formally recognized humanity's contribution. "We have existed in peace for so long that we forgot the universe is not always peaceful. You humans never forgot. What we once feared in you, your tenacity, your aggression, your willingness to embrace pain and sacrifice, has saved us all." The Council unanimously voted to remove all restrictions on human military development and established a new Concord Defense Academy on Earth, where representatives from all member species would learn the human way of war. As the proclamation was read, Dr. Lisa Morgan stood at the back of the chamber. She thought about that first meeting 5 years ago, when the Council had feared humanity's warrior nature. Now they celebrated it. "We came to the stars hoping to find peace," she said quietly to Ambassador Whitman beside her. "And instead we brought war," Whitman replied. "But in doing so, we may have secured peace for generations to come." In the decades that followed, humanity became known as the protectors of the Concord. The mere presence of human ships was often enough to deter aggression. Throughout the galaxy, a new saying emerged among potential adversaries. "Fight anyone you wish, but never fight the humans. They do not know how to lose." The humans themselves found this reputation both a burden and an honor. They continued to write poetry, create art, and dream of peace. But they never forgot the lessons of the Ravager War, that sometimes, to preserve life, you must be willing to fight for it. That paradox, more than anything, defined what it meant to be human in a galaxy full of stars.